Okay, very good. Okay, so we're covering Mark Batterson's book, Win the Day, Part 2, which is habit number 3. So the first habit was flip the script, right? Our signature story has to be the story that God's written about our lives. The second habit is kiss the wave. That's about dealing with our yesterdays. That's about seeing the obstacle as not like the issue, but having seeing the obstacle as the, what if the obstacle was the way? What if, we're supposed to just embrace this obstacle that's in our way and be able to work through it. Habit number 3 is eat the frog. That's his habit. Eat the frog. If you want God to do the super, you've got to do the natural. And the quote "eat the frog" came from, it's a Tom Sawyer quote where he said, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you have to eat a frog, I find it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if you ever have to eat two, start with the big one first. And so his whole premise is, hello. His whole premise is, what goals have you had forever that you've not taken the first step toward? What to-do list items are you most tempted to procrastinate on that you haven't started? What difficult decision have you been delaying that you just know you need to do? And that is your frog. Okay, so what do you know you need to do and you haven't done it yet? That's your frog. And so with every single habit, I'm going to give you like a call to action. And so that's your frog. I know that one thing I'm procrastinating on is I got to mail a whole whack of samples out to people that I haven't done yet. It's on my counter. I'm doing that today before the day is over. And I need to learn reels for Instagram. That's a goal I've set for myself and I'm procrastinating on it. So there's two little frogs that I'm going to eat. So that's your frog. You need to give yourself a deadline and then you need to get started. What in your business, because we're going to do this book, Win the Day, in the context of our business, because all of us on this page, we are to some extent working our business, right? So what frog in your business do you need to eat? If you're watching this, comment in the comment section on the Momentum Makers page or on the Zoom if you want to, but what frog do you need to eat? That's your frog, okay? And the big idea is how you start your day sets the tone for the rest of it. And so, how do you start your day? Do you start your day with a plan, or do you just roll out of bed and be like, well, or whatever happens today is whatever happens today, right? Over and over again, he talks in his book, and you hear us talk about this on this page, that consistency will trump everything every day of the week. Showing up day in and day out and being consistent in the little things it'll trump talent, and it'll trump almost everything every day of the week. Showing up, because daily habits will yield compound interest over time, right? And a big thing of eating the frog is you don't find the time, you make the time, right? You will never find the time to do the important things, right? You have to make the time to do it. We have to schedule the important things in, right? Just like we schedule in your doctor appointment or your eye appointment, you have to schedule in your business appointment. You have to schedule in your dates with your hubby and your wife appointments, right? We don't find time for things. We have to make time for things. And daily habits, so making that time, that's going to eliminate excuses. That's going to eliminate drama. Like, it eliminates drama in our life when we just do the things we know we need to do, right? Like your little checklist for your IPA sheet. Isn't the drama gone when you're just like, I'm just going to work through this checklist and I'm going to get it done. And then I know that I've put some good solid time into my business. And then there's none of that internal drama dialogue, for lack of a better word. Okay. And a lot of it is like, an example is like, he says, you don't decide you're going to work out in the morning when your alarm goes off, right? You don't say, well, I'm going to set my alarm for 6. And when the alarm goes off, I'll decide whether or not I'm going to work out or not. You will always, or 9 times out of 10, you're going to roll over and you're going to hit snooze, right? You make the decision to work out the night before. You set the alarm, you set out your clothes, you schedule your workout buddy to come to your be at your house at 6 for your run, whatever it is. You decide the night before that when the alarm goes off in the morning, I'm going to work out. You don't decide that morning of, you decide the night before, right? Okay, the morning routine doesn't begin in the morning. It begins the night before when you go to bed. And also, part of eating the frog, he talks about, is making time for things in your life that are important, but maybe they're not necessarily urgent, right? Like, do you have some goals in your life or some dreams in your life that you've wanted to do that they're not necessarily urgent, but maybe you've been wanting to write a book, or maybe you've wanted to train for a marathon, or maybe you wanted to, I don't know, write a song, something, a creative thing in your life, or you want to take a course, or you want to go back to school. Like, those are things that aren't necessarily urgent, maybe, but they're still important. And so that you need to make the time for those things too, right? That's part of eating the frog in your life. Don't let what you cannot control keep you from controlling what you can. We can control much more than we think we can, and we can control much more than we say we can, right? I thought that was kind of a bit of a truth bomb. And he talks about habit stacking too, which I think is a really great perspective, where you couple a habit, like a habit that comes really naturally and easy to you, even a habit that you enjoy, with a habit that maybe be a bit more difficult for you. So like a habit stack for me would be, I love the day's first cup of coffee. I love, a quiet house. And so that habit of a nice warm hot cup of coffee in a quiet house, that's a habit that I love. So I'm going to couple that with setting my alarm an hour earlier so that I can have that. That's a harder thing for me, to get out of bed an hour earlier so I can spend time with the Lord. I'm going to habit stack something I love with something that takes a little bit more discipline. Another habit stack would be when I drive my kids to school every morning, I'm going to drive to school in my running clothes so that I take my kids to school every day. That's just a natural habit. We have to get me to school by 7:30. I'm going to go in my workout clothes. Excuse me, so that after I drop them off, I'm going to run that 3 or 4 mile loop before I get back in my car and drive home and walk into my house and see all the things that need to be done. Dishes in the sink, laundry, my business, Zoom calls, whatever. Coupling a habit, an easy habit, with a harder habit. You want to catch up with a friend, you ask her to go for a walk with you. You habit stack. I love hanging out with my friend, and I'm also getting in my exercise. Habit stacking, right? I thought that was a really good idea. Okay, eating the frog isn't easy. It's just choosing the important over the urgent. It's figuring out your high leverage habits and then investing your time and talent into them. You only have a little bit of time in your day. What's a higher leverage habit? Messaging a few people, or crafting the most beautiful, perfect post that takes you all of those 20 minutes. Maybe your higher leverage habit that day would be to send out a few messages, right? Okay. It's also cursing the barren fig tree, those bad habits that waste time, talent, and treasure. It's doing the math and scheduling things on your calendar and meeting those appointments, including appointments that fuel you. Sabbath, reading a book, a date with your spouse, one time with your kids, things that fuel you, right? Because we have to fill up in order to be able to pour out. He also talks a lot about the mundanity of excellence, right? Like, excellence is mundane, showing up day in and day out and just being consistent in doing the things that we know what grows our business. It's not sexy, right? It's not showy. It's not glamorous. You might have like that one little moment in the sun where someone shouts you out for the prize you earned for a contest, or if you ranked up or whatever, but that's just a moment, right? What's behind that moment is the mundanity of excellence, the things that you did day in and day out that actually got you to that shining moment where you got shouted out for something, right? And so it's not glamorous. Excellence and just showing up in your mundanity. I just like how he says it, because so much of life is mundane and not glamorous, right? Being a wife, being a mama, it's not necessarily glorious or glamorous, but there's beauty in that, and there's so much gift and reward in that when we show up in our excellence day in and day out and do the things we know we're supposed to do, right? Okay, excellence requires doing small, ordinary things consistently right. It seems miraculous, but it's actually quite mundane. Excellence is a habit that is repeated consistently and correctly over and over again. And it's super biblical and scriptural, where the Bible says, if we are faithful in the little things, he will let us be faithful in the bigger things. But we have to show that we can be. Can you be faithful with a silver team of 3 people? Can you be faithful with taking care of the people that you added to your team last month? If you can be faithful in that, then maybe you can be faithful in growing your team even bigger this month. But we've got to show up and be faithful in the small things before we can show up and be super faithful in the larger things, right? Consistency beats intensity every single time. Every single time. And I think of that often in, like, if you're pushing for a rank, a bigger rank up maybe, instead of waiting for the 28th for all subscriptions to go through and then saying, okay, we got 3 days to get 100 orders through, which is often what happens at the end of months, right? If when you have big goals, and magic happens the last 3 days. But what if you work your business all month long too, up until the 28th, and you're strategic all month long up until the 28th, and saying, like, I have this goal and I'm going to break it down these 30 days this month. My goal is to send out this many messages. My goal is to we can't control the outcome, but we can control our input and our output of what we do, right? And so that consistency all month long is going to beat that intensity if you just do, or so often I see people on my team where they will, be insane for a month or two and hit crazy ranks, and then they do nothing for 3, 4, or 5 months afterwards. And so I always tell my team, if you can just do one thing every day, just show up and do one thing every day is 30 somethings in a month, as opposed to nothing for 3, or burning out even, and then just being like, whoa, peace out, I got to take a few months off, and then starting all over again, basically from the beginning, because you lose your people if you check out, right? So that's consistency, just showing up day in and day out. Succeeding also might mean failing quite a bit, right? Failing more than everybody else, getting more no's than anybody else. It may also be you fall down 7 times, but you get up the 8th time. You have grit, you have stamina, you have perseverance. You show up even when it's hard. You show up even when life is nuts and it's crazy. That is eating the frog, right? And it's not about getting it right the first time, it's about getting it right eventually, So I think there's a whole lot of grace there. It's fighting for your rank every month. It's fighting for whatever goals you set for yourself. And whether you hit them or whether you don't, it's a new month now, and I'm going to fight for it this month. I'm going to fight for it again, and I'm going to fight for it over and over again until I don't have to fight for it anymore. And then I'm going to start fighting for my next rank. Do you know what I mean? But it's having that mental mindset, which is so huge for everything, in just saying, I'm going to show up and I'm going to have grit, and I'm going to show up in my excellence, and it's going to be mundane and nothing to like get up in the night and rave over or have someone shout me out over that I sat on my butt today and I did an hour of IPA, but it's just showing up consistently. It's staying the course, right? So that is habit number 3, eating the frog. If you want God to do the super, you've got to do the natural, right? And then he'll show up and move mountains for us. Okay, habit 4, fly the kite. How you do anything is how you'll do everything. And his fly the kite quote is from in the mid 18th century. This civil engineer, he was tasked with well, it was back when people could only cross the chasm between the Niagara Falls with just a boat. And so he was tasked with the job of building a suspension bridge that would go between the chasms of the Niagara Falls. And so he came up with this idea. He had a contest where he said, I'll pay any kid $10 if they can get a kite string from one side of the falls to the other. The winds were really strong. And so this kid was able to get a kite string from one end of the falls to the other. I don't know how he did it, but anyways, he did it. And so then the next day, this civil engineer attached a stronger string. And then the next day he attached a rope. And then the next day he attached a pulley, until eventually he was able to do these beautiful cables. And now there's this glorious suspension bridge there, right? But it started with just this little tiny kite string. And so the premise between this habit is how you do anything is how you will do everything. Okay. And the big idea for habit number 4 is we need to do the little things like they're the big things. We need to sweat the small stuff. It's good to sweat the small stuff, right? And be intentional with the small and with the large. And there's a verse in Zechariah. I didn't write down the reference, but I love it. I love it so much. I just think it shows the heart of the Lord. It says, do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin, to see the plumb line in Zerubbabel's hand. Where God thinks it's so cool. Like he rejoices when he sees us begin the work, not just have this excellent, awesome Shazam finish, but he thinks it's so cool when we begin the work. And he's like, don't despise those small beginnings. God delights to see it begin. I think that is so fun. He's so cool because nothing's too big for him, but nothing's too small for him either. So I love that. Okay. And so also, like all throughout scripture, we see like we want to do like amazing things for God, right? We want to do these amazing kingdom things for God. And all through scripture, the Bible says, it's actually God who's going to do the amazing things. Our job isn't to do the amazing things for God. Our job is there's a verse that says, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord is about to do great things for you. And there's another verse that says, stand still and see what the Lord is about to do. So our job is to consecrate ourselves and to be ready to allow him to work through us. But when we consecrate ourselves and make ourselves open to whatever he wants to do in our lives, then he's the one who shows up and does these crazy big things in our lives. So we can go ahead and we can dream crazy big, but we start small, right? We start small with, or you've got this crazy big, you want to rank up by the end of this month. Okay, but now what are you going to do today? What are you going to do in the snippet of time that you have today to get to that crazy big goal, right? Dream big, but start small. Because it's little by little that habits are made, and little by little that dreams are made reality. Okay, so if we want to win the day, we have to define the win. What's important now? And before we define the win, we have to define success. And really what success is it's stewardship. It's stewarding well what we already have and taking care of well what we already have, right? Becoming the best version of ourselves as possible. And a lot of times when we think in terms of success, it's good to even to think in terms of categories, right? Like financially, successful stewardship is raising your level of giving higher than your standard of spending, right? Relational success, relational stewardship is when the people who live in my home, who know me best, love me the most and respect me the most and say, yeah, she is who she says she is, who she puts herself out on online, the highlight reel of her life. That's who she really is. And what she says, what you see is what you get. That is relational success. Spiritual success, it's glorifying the Lord, giving him our time and our talents and our treasures, and giving him the glory when we do have success. As we say, it's all because of the Lord, giving him the glory, right? So if we are faithful in the little things, we will be faithful in the large things. How we do anything is how we will do everything. Okay. And that starts with a growth mindset, right? Like there's no finish line. There's no ceiling. There's no like, I don't want to ever get to the point where I'm like, I'm arrived. I have arrived. I know all the things. I've read all the books and I have nothing left to learn, right? It's always saying, I want to learn more. I want to be a lifelong learner. Megan is such a great example of that to our team. I think that she's just always asking curious questions. She's always wanting to learn from us who are underneath her. You know, she's saying, I don't think I've arrived. I don't have all the answers. I can always learn from people. So there's just no finish line, and there's no finish line in God's economy either, right? He grows us little by little. He, you know, we learn about him little by little. We become more like him little by little. He promotes us little by little. And so, and that's scriptural too. When the Israelites went into the promised land, he said, I'm not going to drive out all those people for you in a day, because the wild animals would come in and overtake you and overwhelm you. I'm going to drive them out little by little. And that's kind of what he does in our lives too, right? And he talks about having a desirable difficulty, like, you know, whatever goal you have for your life, whatever goal you have for your business, if it's too small, you're going to get bored. And if it's too hard, you're going to quit. So it has to be this desirable difficulty where it's like you need the Lord to help you accomplish it. And it's going to be hard, but it can be done. It's within reach, but it's going to be pretty tough to do. That's that desirable level of difficulty. And also, Melinda Nanakovan shared on our team call the other night, and one of the things that she shared, it blessed me so much. She's saying, I don't ever want to get to the point, this is a Melinda paraphrase, but like, I want to be so thankful. I always want to be so thankful for where I am right now, and just like have joy in the journey, and just be so like, remember back when I thought, how cool will it be the day that I'm silver? How cool will it be the day that I hit gold? I can remember thinking like ruby was my goal. Like, I think it would be so cool to be ruby someday. Emerald was never on my horizon, you know? And so every month, these past 11 months that I have fought for my rank, I've tried to fight and joy, being like, I remember thinking I would never even be close to this. You know, what a gift to be able to fight to maintain this rank that by the God's grace we were able to get to as a team. So having that, because then there's no striving, and there's working. You're always working, but you're working coming from a place of joy, and coming from a place of peace, and coming from a place of rest, even where I'm going to work hard, and I hope I'm going to work hard to reach this goal. But if I don't reach it, that's okay. That's okay. I know that I've done my best, and I'm going to start fresh next month. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think that's also a secret to longevity in this business, because there's so many highs and lows. There's so many, I mean, you can be like schizophrenic in your mindset in a given day. I love this business. I hate this business. I want to quit. I love it. I'm going to sapphire in a month. You know, like you can go crazy. So you have to have joy in the journey, and just be like, I'm thankful. I'm so thankful for the gift of this income and this team and this family. And I'm going to do my best to reach my goals. But if I don't, next month is a new month. I'm excited about that. Okay. And Shazam. Actually, that's it. I'm going to stop there today. Today's a shorter day. So I guess it was only 2 habits. Part 3 tomorrow is imagining unborn tomorrows. It's the last 3 habits. So the rest of the book is a little bit less. But so your call to action is, and from the first habit, from habit 3, which was not fly the kite. What was it? Eat the frog. What frog do you need to eat this week in your business? Specifically, what frog do you need to eat? And then number 4, flying the kite. How you do anything is how you do everything. So share with us on the Momentum Makers thread, even like, what are where can you show up better? Where can you show up better in your consistency and in your excellence? That maybe a growth point. Where's a growth point for you? And what's even a way that you could habit stack something in your life to make it better and to make you more effective in your Plexus business? And that is where I'm going to stop today. So we buried our yesterday. Today we're moving forward with these 2 habits on how to win the day. And then tomorrow we're thinking future mindset. We're thinking legacy. We're thinking, okay, now we're going to imagine our unborn tomorrows. And how cool it'd be to be even with Plexus, knowing that the goal of Plexus, the goal of our president and CEO is that we are a legacy company, right? That this is something that we can create for our children and our grandchildren. And so that's the goal of even just be thinking that way for tomorrow. Like now, we're winning the day, we're getting our daily habits, we're eating our daily frogs, we're doing our daily things. And now we're going to go to a space where now we're going to imagine our unborn tomorrows and just what could be and what legacy do I want to leave my people and my loved ones and my family. All right. Blessings on you guys. Have a happy rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow.